I wondered and marveled at how come the children in early childhood, a class of 16, 20 children, were doing exactly what the teacher wanted, exactly when she needed them to do it. I was mesmerized by this. How do they achieve this? Hi, I'm Miss Carol, and I've been teaching early childhood classes at Acorn Hill Waldorf Kindergarten and Nursery for the past 16 years. Well, before I became a Waldorf teacher, I did observe many early childhood teachers before I made that decision. I also observed some other grade levels to make sure I wanted to go into early childhood. And I wondered and marveled at how come the children in early childhood, a class of 16, 20 children, were doing exactly what the teacher wanted, exactly when she needed them to do it. I was mesmerized by this. How do they achieve this? And they never use the word no. They never have timeouts. That's not part of our Waldorf education. So I wanted to know what it took in order to have children really listening practically to every word. And most of the time, they want to be with you, and they want to come into circle, or they want to go into the next transition, which is not so easy for some children because we're going outside. There's a lot of times when we either do some finger plays or we definitely sing in that pentatonic scale I was telling you about, so that they will hear what we have to say without us repeating it, without me saying, "You sit down now." No, we never, ever, ever. If we do that, we lost it. Our pedagogy is not structured that way. So what I've learned is that the tone of my voice, my speech, and the pentatonic scale, those 5 notes I've told you about, I don't speak them, but I sing them. So children will follow what I have to do. It's like the Pied Piper. Also having conscious intention, and I listen to every child and what they have to say. Even though I don't ask questions back, we don't do direct questioning to children, we listen and we take them in and we hear what they have to say. That also helps when it's time for me to say, "Gathering at the front door," and they go. They just go. I don't have to say another word. Also, we live in a rhythm. It's very important that children live in a rhythm. They know what to expect next after they've done it over and over again. Repetition is very important for young children. So I really have a rhythm, which some people would call a schedule, that by 9:50 in the morning, I was definitely collecting the sand toys, and they knew it, and they helped collect the sand toys and put them in the shed because we were transitioning inside. It has to do with my relationship with them. It has to do with my intention. And it has a name I've learned only about 3 months ago, after all these years. It's called resonance. There is a certain resonance when you're paying attention and you're doing things with intention with children, and you're using certain tones that they relate to. That's what makes it work. You're sort of like on the same wavelength as they are, and their ears are just adjusting to new sounds, new noises, and new tones all the time. But in the first 7 years, those pentatonic notes are the ones they understand and relate to the most. I was asked today to talk a little bit about how we get a young child's attention and how it is that they follow us most all the time in terms of what we'd like them to do next, without saying very, very much at all. Part of this is because we have a rhythm of the day, of the week, and of the month. So the child knows daily what they can expect next. It stays the same. They love consistency, and repetition is very important. It makes them feel safe and secure, so they can be on their own, off with their playmate, engaging with their playmate, and they have no worries. When I need their attention, I often do sing to them. I'm not suggesting you have to do that, but I might say, "Time to put the toys away. Tomorrow is another day." Something like that. They know it's time to put everything down, put everything away, and we all do it together. That's the other thing. We do it together. I don't give them like orders that you have to put the toys away. The other thing I do with a child that might not be able to listen as well as other children is I will go to them ahead of time. It's called previewing. And you preview them on what's coming up next and say, in a few minutes, we're going to be putting the toys away. Make sure you are ready when it's time to put the toys away. And that sets them up to know reminds them of what's coming next. So it's called previewing. The other thing is, what foods are they eating and how does that food affect them? Without your realizing it, sometimes the very food that you think is one of the best foods that they are eating, like yogurt, may actually be giving them a problem. There are symptoms and things to look for, and your pediatrician definitely is the best place to check that out. But I have noticed different behaviors in children and an inability to focus sometimes, and it had to do with the foods they were eating. And the last thing I would mention is sleep and a sleep rhythm. Sleep rhythms are very important, that a young child gets up to 11 hours of sleep every night. And that too is a rhythm, that they're going to bed at a certain time every night that's possible, and they wake up in the next morning and they've been asleep for at least a good 11 hours. So besides having this rhythm, which they can anticipate and expect, and it is repeated every day, the other thing is bathrooming. We are actually training them when to go to the bathroom, because if you don't interrupt their play, they don't go. They'll forget about it. So in my situation, every day at 9:30, and then we repeated it again at 11:30, the children were going into the bathroom. And this helps them stay focused on what they're doing, and it's a part of their morning rhythm. In your case, you might call it a schedule. We simply call it a rhythm. And then we have a weekly rhythm as well. We do certain things on Mondays that we don't do on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it distinguishes one day from the next, which you may or may not be able to use at home at all, but it's an idea. Some of the children know about Friday night is special night because they get to do something with mom and dad that they don't get to do all week. They really look forward to that. So there is a weekly rhythm kind of embedded in your home and family life. But children do look forward to having, to know what's coming next. They'll be far more apt to listen to you if you've thought about some of the very things I've just mentioned. So if a child is having what some people would label a temper tantrum, or they can't listen, they're preoccupied, they're in their own world, they're upset, they're angry, one of the best things to do is to put them in a safe place, and that they might not even want to be touched when they're like that. So very often children kind of back away when this is happening, and that child can be sheltered in a way that they can calm down, because one of the things we're teaching the young child is self-control, how to pull oneself back in from an emotional state that's out of hand. So we're helping them learn how to do that. And one of the ways is to give them some space and to say, okay, let's go over here and sit down now. If you coax them into it. And then if they'll allow it, you can pick them up and sit with them in a chair and put your arms around them and say absolutely almost nothing. Just sit there. I often sing to them a lullaby kind of song, and without them realizing it, I kind of rock them either back and forward or left to right. At the same time, I'm holding them, and I use a very, very calm voice, and I sing a lullaby to them until they're ready to stop. The other thing I offer them is a drink of water. If they can't control they're going and they can't stop, I give them a drink of water. And I ask them to take a sip, just a little sip, because you can't drink water and cry at the same time. And it's a chance that you can interrupt it with a drink of water and bring them back into their bodies. Because actually what they've done is gone way out of their body. They don't know how to come back in and calm down. And we're teaching them how to do that. We're giving them the time and the space. No matter what else is going on in the classroom or in our lives, that's what we're teaching them in that moment, is self-control. So working with a child, either getting them to understand what you need them to do by previewing them, letting them know ahead of time, keeping them in a rhythm that they can depend on, or when a child is upset, learning how to calm them down and teaching them how to bring it in themselves. Self-control is part of our goal in early childhood. Thank you for listening. If you have any ideas of your own, I'd love to hear them. You can leave a comment in our comment column. Thank you.